Hi, I'm Eileen Roche from Designs and Machine Embroidery, and I'm so excited to be here today on a Tuesday. We're only here on Thursday, but today I have a special guest, Ashley Jones, and she is going to join me from Puerto Rico, and we are going to review Perfect Embroidery Pro's latest updates and all the fun features that are in it. So if you would just sign in and let me know where you are joining us from, then I'll bring in Ashley from Puerto Rico, and she can get us started. So let's see, Jody Burks, you're hoping to see Ashley in January 2021. You say you'll be back on her island. Well, that's a lot of fun. So, and let's see, Royce Zook, you are from So Much More in Austin. Thanks for joining us today. And Elaine Kaplan from Ohio. Where are you, Elaine? Wow, we got a lot of people joining us. Roy Garland, he's from Texas. Knows a little bit about this software, I think. And watching from Cedar City, Sharon Schroeder. Thanks for joining us. So Ashley has been a dime educator since 2014, and she has a degree in IT. So she's really the right person to teach about embroidery. So embroidery software specifically. So who wouldn't want to have her, kind of team up with me and really share all these latest updates to PEP. So come on in, Ashley, and say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Nice to have you here, Ashley. How is the weather today in Puerto Rico?
It's nice and warm, always in the 80s here.
Well, I wish I could say that, but today I'm in Dallas, Texas, and it was 47 degrees. So I'm whining because that's really quite chilly for April in Texas, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, Ashley, you are going to share some of the details of our latest updates, right? The new features that are in PEP. And of course, all those updates are free to anyone who owns Perfect Embroidery Pro all the time, right?
Exactly. So yeah, we're going to show you how to use those updates in kind of detail so that you can know exactly what was added to your software, but then also give you a few ideas of what you can do with some of those updates too, and how they will help you, not just how to use them, but how they will help you.
That's great. So let's get started with, I think the very first thing that you wanted to share with us was about printing the catalog, correct?
Exactly. So Yep. And I will open my embroidery toolshed. Let me know when you can see my embroidery toolshed, Eileen.
All right. There we go. I'm going to add that to the stream, and there you go.
Okay, so I'm in my embroidery toolshed software. Most of you know that this was a very robust update for us a month or so ago. Embroidery Toolshed is basically, as the name describes, it's the shed that's going to hold all of your embroidery tools. So basically, when you do your update, your software basically turns into, for lack of better terms, Embroidery Toolshed, but all of your software are all still there. So over in my tab here in the bottom right, I have clicked my shopping cart, and I have a check mark next to every Dime Inspiration software that I own. In blue, it shows which one I have as the default. So you can actually change your default by selecting this ellipse, the 3 dots, and choosing Make Default. Now, the nice thing about Embroidery Toolshed is you do not have to switch the default. You can leave it in Embroidery Toolshed, and all of your features from all of your pieces of software that you own will be in this one location. So no need to flip back and forth. So today you're going to see me show you the updates to Perfect Embroidery Pro, but notice I'm in Embroidery Toolshed because all of my features are in this one location. And I love this. I love the fact that we can switch between the view just for familiarity, but I love the fact that I don't have to anymore. I think Eileen mentioned in one of our previous conversations, wouldn't it be nice if all of your Microsoft did this? You could access every Microsoft software in one spot. So this is really an amazing feature, guys. So I want to start out not just with the fact that you now have Embroidery Toolshed, but I want to show you some of the new features that were added to Perfect Embroidery Pro. And again, these are features to Perfect Embroidery Pro. Some of them are in the other pieces of software, but we're talking about Perfect Embroidery Pro today. So under your file option in the top left corner here, I actually am going to show you something that I've had customers ask about for a very long time. And this is the print catalog option. What this allows you to do is select a folder that you have your embroidery designs installed in, and it will actually print little images of the entire group of files that are in that folder. So I'm going to show you what it does. So I'm basically in my folder for my Perfect Embroidery Pro free designs, which is under my C Dime designs. And then the free monthly designs that you get with Perfect Embroidery Pro, this is a great way to view those because they are random and they're named by number. But I'm going to show you the free catalog that we get when you purchase or own Perfect Embroidery Pro, what it looks like. So I've selected this folder and I'm just going to, I have all of these checked for subfolders and to put all this information on there. You do whatever you like. And so then basically it's going to save a catalog for me. I'm going to save it on my desktop so I actually can find it. So I'm sure some of you are like me. Things aren't as organized as maybe we'd like them to be. But since we're here in quarantine, we have plenty of time to organize our embroidery designs, right?
Absolutely.
So while it's thinking, it basically is creating a PDF file that you can print. So take a look at this. This is actually everything that is in that folder. So when you print this file, it shows you in my C Dime Designs, in my Perfect Embroidery Pro free designs folder, this is everything in that folder. So I can either save this PDF or print it or both. Isn't that awesome?
That is awesome. And actually, you know, I would use that. I think maybe many people would use that if they are offering to monogram something for someone, and then they could just print, you know, monograms that would be appropriate for that fabric. Like, let's say you wouldn't want a skinny satin or a running stitch monogram if you're going to be doing terry cloth towels for somebody. So instead of getting into that, let's say argument, right? Or disagreement about, well, I like that, but you know, a new bride wouldn't understand that a thin satin stitch is not going to work on a heavy cotton terry cloth towel. So I love that. What a great feature. I didn't even know we had that. That's so embarrassing.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you guys like it. So I think that that's a great use of it, Eileen, is to be able to print your designs to show basically customers what you have to offer, as well as just for you to remember. I know a lot of us out there have thousands of designs, and some of us, probably like me, don't even know what we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all guilty of that.
Yes. So just for a recap, that was file and print catalog was that new feature. Yes. Okay. Are we ready to move on to printing individual crosshairs?
You bet.
Okay. So another new feature that was added, and I know Eileen and I both have been wanting this for some time because she and I both used a very similar method. When you need to print an embroidery design for placement purposes, we have a built-in print option, and you can actually choose under the settings to make sure that it's actual size. You can add a crosshair so that when you print this, you know exactly the center of the design for placement. The problem with this that we have come across, Eileen and I both wanted to be able to have multiple designs on this page so that we conserved our print and stick target paper. Our print and stick target paper is a sticky, kind of translucent template paper that we print on, and it's more pricey than regular paper. So I wanted to use every bit of it that I could. And when I do this, it prints this one design in the middle of the page. But if I added two designs on the page, it then gives me one crosshair, which didn't exactly do what I needed it to do. So one of the updates that have been added to Perfect Embroidery Pro, which I absolutely have used a ton already is the ability, I'm just finding another butterfly here. So is the ability to print 2 of these, and you can put them wherever you want and put multiples. I'm just going to show you with these 2. But to be able to print these on one page, but then add individual crosshairs. So I'm doing a right mouse click, and then my menu that comes up, I choose utility and add crosshair. And look how it drops that crosshair right into the middle of that one butterfly. And I'm going to move this one over a little bit, or maybe up here, because I know that it will overlap the crosshair. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select that individual butterfly, right mouse click, utility, and add crosshair. And now watch what happens when I go to my print option. I still get that crosshair in the center, and so I don't need it. So I'm going to turn it off in my settings, but I still want my designs to be actual size, so they'll show up on my garment exactly how they're going to stitch. And look at that. I could have easily added 2 more designs here to fill up that page. So I'm conserving my template paper and not wasting it by printing one design in the middle. Eileen, have you been waiting on that forever?
I have, because I manually did it myself. I would actually draw, you know, because we have artwork tools in the software, and I would draw my own crosshair and group it with the embroidery design and then gang them up on one page. Oh boy, it was complicated. So yes, I mean, after several requests, maybe 2 dozen, and then about a half a dozen from you, it actually happened.
I know. I love it. So I think our customers will find some use in that as well. So so that is a new feature that, like I said, was worth its weight in gold, I know, to Eileen and I. So so yeah, so that's another really, really good feature. So do you have any questions, Eileen, that you want me to pause for? Or
so Susan Shep has actually, she has an empty folder. So here, let's see her original question. She says, where do I find this? And oh wait, that's the wrong one. That's terrible. So, well, maybe I don't quite understand her question, but someone wanted to know why I have that print catalog, but when she goes into it, it's all she has is an empty folder. But you actually have to walk the software through what you want printed. Isn't that correct?
that is correct. And if you notice, I'm going to go back and show that example again so that Susan will see. So when I choose my print catalog, I know for a fact that I have 500 plus designs in this folder, but it does show up empty right here. I'm not sure why that is, but I can assure you when you select that folder and you do OK, it does build that catalog as a PDF. And that's exactly what we saw whenever I opened this one before. So I'm sorry, Susan, that will show up empty when you're selecting it, but go ahead and follow through the steps. And if there are truly designs in that folder, it will create that PDF file for you.
And remember, everyone, you can always watch a replay of this broadcast, because, you know, it's always there in our timeline on Facebook and YouTube. So if you can't follow quite now, after the end, you can always go back and review.
Yeah, perfect. And I mean, I know that Eileen and I both will probably answer any questions that doesn't get answered aloud on this video. So we can certainly answer them in the feed later if they don't get answered.
Right. Great.
So, okay.
So we have another new feature, right? That you're excited to share.
Yes. So the next item I want to show is the search feature. Now, this is something that I think is going to be a huge time saver for a lot of people. And as I mentioned earlier, I know most of us have thousands of designs, and chances are you don't even know what you have. And that's certainly the case with me, unfortunately. So I'm over in my design catalog here. And I have just clicked on the results here. There's a little search icon. I've just clicked on it once with my left mouse click, but then I'm going to right mouse click, and it gives me this option for find. So you can also use Control F on your keyboard. That's Control F like Frank. and this pop-up box will come up. And so this gives us a ton of options to search our designs. So say I'm actually going to clear an option I had in there earlier. So let's just say you've got somewhere to be, you're making something for someone and you need something that's going to stitch out quickly. So maybe your amount of time, your 1,000 stitches a minute, you've only got 4 minutes to stitch something. So we're going to search for a design that only has 4,000 or less stitches. You can actually fill in any of these parameters. I'm just going to start here and show you. So I'm going to leave, you can put from, 1 or whatever, or 0, or leave it blank. It works all the same. And then when I click my find option, now mine went quickly. The first time that you do this, be very patient, especially if you have a lot of designs, because it does take some time for that search to go through every single design the very first time. But then it kind of makes a bit of a catalog so that when you search again, it already has built kind of that database of information. So you're not having to search slowly the next time. So if I over here in my my designs tab again to the bottom right here, these are all of the designs that it has located for me that have fewer than 4,000 stitches, which I think is pretty cool because I didn't have to sift through all of my designs. And notice that these designs are named by numbers because some of them are free that I get every month with Perfect Embroidery Pro, and I did not rename them. So if I click on this design, for instance, it's in the background, even though my pop-up box is still here, but look at the top of my tab here. So this design is 3,899 stitches. So it is less than my 4,000 stitches that I requested. But let's say that you really have in mind what you want to do, or maybe your time is even more precious and you want to even create more parameters. So for instance, let's say that we don't want any more than 4 colors and we want the file to be no larger than a 4x4 hoop. So I'm going to put 3.9 inches in because we know our 4-inch hoop doesn't stitch all the way to 4 inches. And then I'm going to click find from there, and it has given me a whole new set of designs, new parameters. It's narrowed that selection down even further. And any one of these that I click on falls into those parameters that I've set here. So is that not a huge time saver for looking for your designs?
It is a huge time saver. We have a couple questions.
Okay.
So Alice Helperine wants to know, does this feature work on purchased designs that are not stored in PEP?
It does. Notice at the bottom here, I have include non-native designs. Non-native designs are other stitch file formats. Doesn't necessarily have to be a particular one. As long as it's a stitch file format, it does search for all embroidery designs that are PES, JEF, EXP, ART, all of those files that we use on our embroidery machines.
Okay, and then we do have, let's see, Sharon Schroeder wants to know, what's the most current version of Embroidery Toolshed PEP?
I can look at that really quick. This is another really good lesson here. I'm going to close out my find. So help, and under my about option, it'll tell what's the most current version. So the most current version of Embroidery Toolshed is 14.59. Your Embroidery Toolshed will know if it's not the current version. When you open it, if it gives you a pop-up box that says there's a newer version, that's how you'll know. Or you can even go to help and check for updates, and it will actually check, and mine says you already have the latest version of the program.
Mm-hmm. And Sharon says, should they come that often? Well, they come for different reasons. Sometimes, we've just been bugging the developers for wonderful new features like the printed crosshairs or the adding additional crosshairs. Sometimes it's to keep up with changes in the Microsoft or Apple platforms itself. And some of those updates are not even really noticeable to you, but it just makes all of the embroidery software operate better across all platforms.
Absolutely. And to some of those fixes, Eileen and I were talking about earlier, some of these fixes, a new feature is added to the software because the developers or some customers or those of us that just use the software in general have made recommendations. Once they've done the update, they're always improving those updates. So times it is an improvement to an original update, as well as fixes for platforms and additional features as well. So
because all new features are tested thoroughly in-house, but it's the feedback from the true users that use it every day that really keeps the software up to speed to the absolute latest and the best that it can
right.
be. So that's good. That's a great
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So okay, so just one more thing on the search feature I wanted to point out. We also have these options that are keyword notes and names. So I want to show you if you're searching for something that has a name. So I can search for maybe a file that has, whatever in it. I'm going to just take a chance here and put drink in the name and see what happens. And so, because I think I had one that was drink, or maybe it was beverage, I don't remember, but it will know. It'll look through all my files, and if it finds anything with that name, then it will display it. But also the other options here, the keyword and the notes, those are two categories, as well as the name, that you, the user, actually put in your file, and I'll show you where those go, so that the software can search. So I know that all of us being in quarantine, some of us are spending our time organizing, and organizing your designs is a great way to spend your quarantine. I know not a lot of us have a ton of files that we could be organizing. So I'll show you how you can enter this information to get a little more organized with all your designs. So these three files here are the ones that came up that had a drink in the name, because it says drink the rainbow, basically. And so that is actually the file name of this design. So I'm going to actually get rid of that and show you a couple of other things that I've done. So in the notes, and I'll show you where this comes, I actually know that I made a tea towel for my sister, Donna, and I actually put her name that I had made this tea towel for her in the notes. So if I select this design here that it found, notice over here, so my design's behind my pop-up box, but notice over here, I put in the notes category that I made a kitchen towel for my sister Donna with this design. So I can search that by entering that information here, just like I did. I also added these keywords just for future use. If I'm looking for a design that is something for sister or friend, or that has a floral component to it, because this design says, always my sister, forever my friend. This design actually was a free design with Perfect Embroidery Pro, one of the months. So if you don't have it, you certainly could download it. And these keywords and notes are self-defined. So you enter that information. You can also give it a rating. And notice here in my find option, I can search via that rating as well. Make sure when you do this that you click apply and you resave your design with those notes and keywords, or else they won't be there. So that's another really good way to organize your designs. I know a lot of times we'll make designs and we'll stitch them for people, and we can remember what we stitched, but we just don't remember the design. So it's a great way, and you could make as many notes and as many keywords as you'd like to be able to search.
Ashley, I know you're a PC user, but Carol DeGaris, she wants to know, would you organize them on a Mac? I imagine it's the same, right?
It is, absolutely. It's the same concept, because her Perfect Embroidery Pro does work the same as it does on a PC. So her designs, however she has them organized in her folder, you would be doing these notes and keywords from within Perfect Embroidery Pro. So it would be the same on either platform.
And then Jenny Glass wants to know, where was the apply button?
So the apply button is here whenever you have your design on your screen. If your design is selected, your properties come up. So just click somewhere in the blank space And this is the information about the design that's on your screen. And that apply button is there. If you don't see it, it may be hidden behind your designs tab or any of these tabs below, and you might just have to drag this down a bit. Any other questions, Eileen?
No, I think that's good. That's good for right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me know. I'll move on to the next, and then if we have to go back, that's fine.
Sounds good.
Okay. So another really good feature that was added, this was a new feature for our update, was to be able to crop artwork to a shape. So basically, I'm actually going to take this off of my screen here and start from the beginning. And so in our Perfect Embroidery Pro, as well as several of our other pieces of software, we have an artwork tool where we can actually do our own drawings. And under this drop-down arrow, there are a lot of predefined shapes for us. So you can actually select any of these, click and drag, and it'll draw that shape for you. So I'm going to start with this spiral, and with the spiral, it actually gives me more options. I'm going to just leave the default for now and say, okay. So now when I click and I drag on the screen, it draws a perfect spiral for me. Very easy. And the fact that we have these built-in artwork just makes your Perfect Embroidery Pro that much more powerful. So now I'm going to actually choose another shape. So I'm going to go back to that drop-down arrow, and I'm going to choose a heart and draw the heart over top of the spiral. And what I want to do is I want to crop the shape of the spiral to my heart, basically. So if you can think of a cookie cutter, I want to cookie cut a heart shape out of the spiral. So I'm going to select both of those objects. You have to make sure that your cookie cutter shape is what is on top, so to speak. So if we look in my sequence view, I just clicked my sequence view tab here to the bottom right, and I've got two pieces of artwork. The first piece is the spiral, and the second piece is the heart. So the heart is on top. So when I select everything by doing a Control A, or you can also do Edit, Select All. And now I'm going to do a right mouse click with everything selected, my utility option, and crop artwork. And it takes away everything from the outside of my heart. So basically, like I said, think of that as like a cookie cutter, and it'll cut out that shape. So that's with two artwork, making sure that you have your cookie cutter shape on top. And just another example, this is something that I have seen in other embroidery designs, as well as artwork type files for digital die cutters. So this, I actually took the word SEW and I cropped it to my heart. So notice how my letters all fit into my heart shape. So this would make a really cute little embroidery. The background could easily be an applique, and the letters could be applique or fill, or whatever your preference is. So that's kind of an idea of what you might use that crop artwork feature for. So any questions on that, Eileen, that you notice?
No, just Cynthia Dooley. She said that she thinks that's really cool. And I agree. I love that because, I'm not an artist, although I can sketch, and I have learned how to use the built-in artwork tools to really expand my artistic ability for sure. Like all of those dime doors that I feature every month, I digitize them myself, and I use the artwork tools to draw them all. So this is just a new feature that I know I'm definitely going to be using.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to move on then to our artwork on path. And then I was trying to be very organized here, and I had a list of things that I was going to show in what order. And I noticed, Eileen, I missed one. So we'll go back to the thread palette in just a bit, if that's okay.
Okay, so we'll do artwork on path now. All right.
Yeah, so I'll do artwork on path since we're talking about artwork at this point, and then I'll go to the custom thread palette. Artwork on path is another new feature that was added that I am having a lot of fun with. So I'm going to go back up to my artwork tool and show you exactly what that's all about. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a shape. So what I'm about to show you, I'm basically going to do a scallop around a heart is kind of my thought. So I'm just going to draw a half circle for my scallop. And then I'm going to go back to my artwork tool and just select the heart option. And I'm going to just draw a heart, you know, whatever size, because it can be resized later. And I'll turn off my grid now that I've drawn that. So now I am going to select both of these. And when I select the artwork on path, what it's going to do is it's going to put that scallop all the way around my heart. My heart is my path, and I need that to be second. And my half circle here is open on the bottom. So your artwork needs to be open and your path needs to be second. So the path is my heart. So I'm going to select everything again with my Control A, or you can do Edit, Select All. And then I'm going to do that right mouse click again, and I'm going to do Utility and Repeat on Path. Now this gives me a couple of options. So for now, I'm just going to choose to make this at like a 1 inch in the size here, but I'm going to do the reflect and the reflect every other in an example for you as well. And look at that. Look how it just added all of those scallops around my heart without me having to copy and paste and align those. I am loving this.
That is so powerful, because that is one of the hardest tasks to do, is to, you know, make it absolute sized perfectly and all the way around. Oh, it's terrible.
I definitely agree with you there. And so this is artwork, as we said. And so our artwork built into our Perfect Embroidery Pro is not stitches. But at this point, I could absolutely, because it's artwork, save for my digital die cutting path. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. So I want to convert this for you. And then we'll talk about how you can save your artwork to your digital die cutting formats. So let's just say this is artwork and we want to now make it a stitch file. So under your right mouse click with everything selected, I have this convert to option, and I can convert this to any of these stitch file formats. So I can make this a run stitch. I'm going to put this on 3D so we can see. And then I can even convert that to applique and other types of stitches as well. But I'm going to show you another way to do that. This was a feature that was added a little while back, but it's fairly new and I absolutely love it. To the bottom right, we have our effects tab. So if I choose this star, this is all of those stitch file options without me having to do my right mouse click. So if I just want to click through these to see what they're going to be like, I'm already on the run. This is the applique option. So that would make that an applique. And I'm going to select everything and then choose my fill option here. And it fills the entire design. And now it actually is two separate designs. So if I select the heart that's on top and slide it out of the way, you can see that I have fill stitches behind my fill stitches. And to stitch that out would be a bit of a nightmare. Okay. So I'm going to select just the heart that's on top and do a right mouse click, utility. We're using that utility a ton today. And remove overlaps. That's basically going to cut out the stitches behind the heart that's on top so that it's not stitching fill stitches on top of fill stitches. So if I slide that out of the way, you can see. So this is actually a jump stitch here that is just for the machine pathing. So I'm going to undo and put my heart back over. And now go back to my effects tab, and I'm only have the heart selected, not the scallop area. I could actually have that be something different. So this is now an applique center heart. So that fabric would cover up your jump stitch there. So don't worry about that. And then that scallop around the edge is a fill stitch. So I think that would make a cute little embroidered frame or just any design. Maybe you have a fabric that has a print that you could make sure, you know, almost like fussy cutting is right in the center of that heart. So I am loving this art on path. Lots of fun.
Yeah, that's adorable.
And so I just want to give you some other examples of things you can do with this. So notice I have my 2 pieces of artwork already drawn. Now the difference here is I have these filled in, whereas before I just had lines, but it works the same way. So if I select both of these together and do my artwork on path, I'm going to get this design that's to the right here. So you'll see it happen. So if I do my repeat on path, it's asking me what I want to do for my repeats. I'm just going to leave the defaults here and look at that. So then now I can take this particular piece of artwork. As we said, this is just artwork at this point, but I was able to convert this to an applique. And you can even remove that center part, and I've added a monogram here and added some fabric in the background. So it would make a really cute little frame. So that's a really easy way to use this. And so while we're here on this artwork, let's just say we do have this design that's an applique, and we want to use our digital die cutter to cut out these pieces for us, because I don't know about you, but I would not want to do the trimming around the scallops in the hoop. It's not nearly as easy as the circle. So here I would have my artwork selected, and if I go to File and Export Artwork, this actually gives me the ability to choose my artwork option. So this FCM is the format for the Brother Scan and Cut, and the SVG works with the Scan and Cut as well as other digital die cutters. So because this was created in embroidery software, when you save to either of these formats and take that file to your digital die cutter, this design will be the exact size needed for cutting out these applique pieces with your digital die cutter. So another great feature built into Perfect Embroidery Pro to make your life really easy.
So it's really just one software program that does all of that. You don't need multiple software, you know, programs to export to a different program to create the FCM or the SVG. It's very powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we also save to formats for long arm quilters. So creating digital quilt files in this one piece of software. So it's amazing. It's very powerful. And so here are just some other examples that I have to give you some other ideas and also the features. So same thing here. If I select both of these pieces and do my right mouse click, utility, repeat artwork, I actually reduced this here to a 1 inch to make more of these fit on my item here. And notice I converted this to fill stitches. And there again, we have this same concept here. I did remove overlap to make sure I didn't have those stitches on top of other stitches. And then just some more ideas just to give you an example of some differences. So here I have my artwork scallop and a line. So when I select both of these and do utility and repeat, here I have my size. I actually increased it a little and I reflected. If I did this repeat on path, my scallops would be on top. So if I reflect, they will be underneath like it shows here in my example. So that's using the reflect option. And when I converted that to the still stitch here, so basically what I did was select the object in my effects panel over here to the bottom right. I chose my still stitch to make that option. So this line is what we originally repeated the path on. So it makes that a still stitch as well. And in this example, I basically just deleted it by clicking the delete key on my keyboard with that one line selected. And then while we're still on the line format here, I also have the ability to reflect every other one like you see here. So if I do my right mouse click, utility, repeat on path, and I'm going to choose the reflect every other, and I just left my default size here, and I'm going to click OK. And so look at the design that I get there, something very different. And so what I did with this was I actually selected and I used my effects panel to create a run. And I also got rid of this line, just leaving my run stitch you can see here at the bottom. But now look here, if I copy and paste this right on top of itself, and that's a Control C and a Control V for copy paste, or you can use your options here on your toolbar, copy, paste. And now I'm going to use my mirror option, my flip vertical. And look at that. That's a run stitch. So this right here, if I just drag this down, would make a very cute and unique quilting design. So that would be a really nice border design. This can be resized to whatever you need it to be. And just a few more options here. I actually drew this shape. Don't judge my artwork because I am not an artist, but I was going for a little bit of a wave. And I repeated that on this path to get this look of waves. That's a lot of waves, a lot of really close waves, but nonetheless look like waves to me. And then finally, I have this tree that I basically just drew 3 triangles. And as you know, we have a triangle shape in our built-in artwork up here under this drop-down tab next to our artwork. So I basically selected that, drew those 3 triangles. I have my scallop, but I only wanted my scallop on the bottom edge of each of these. So when I selected my triangle, I had to choose my shape tool. And to get it to only do this line, I basically separated this line by doing our split line option. So I select this node, do a right mouse click, split line. I come over, I select this node. I'm basically splitting it from the top part of the triangle. I do a right mouse click, split line. So now I can select this line individually and choose that to put my scallop, my artwork scallop on. So it's hard to select just that one line. So I'm going to go over to my sequence view here in the bottom right. This allows me to easily select, because clicking on that one individual line, it keeps selecting everything else. And I can select this shape. And now when I do my utility and repeat on path, it's going to just repeat on the bottom and click OK. And I know that you can't see it because it's behind this one, but if I move this out of the way, you can now see my scallop. And I just put my colors and combine my shapes to give that look.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's a lot of things that you can do with that one brand new update.
I know. Let's take a look at your wave, because it's very similar to the applique, continuous applique on this seashell stipple quilt that I created a long time ago. Here, I'll bring that up a little larger so people can see. But, you know, like when we look in software, we often think, oh, well, it's a complex fill or what have you, and it's so small on the screen. But wow, you know, this is a 45-inch quilt. So you can really make a lot of changes and just turn those stitches into almost anything that you want, right? It's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. And
that
we do
is
have some questions. So Sue Warner Godin wanted to know, do the applique SVG file 2 millimeter or larger? So you want to talk about that?
So the applique SVG files 2 millimeter and larger is what she's saying. I'm not sure I understand that.
You know, are we able to control how big our applique piece is cut so that it will be covered by our satin, you know, outline?
Yes, I actually get that question a ton. So I'm going to show you very simply here. I'm going to draw just a circle, and I'll show you what our software does when you create an applique. So I've got my circle, and if I go to my effects tab and I turn that into an applique, and I'm going to do my slow redraw so you can see what I mean. So when you create an applique in our software in Perfect Embroidery Pro, it basically puts the placement line and the tack down line slightly offset so that this tack down line is sure to grab your fabric after you've trimmed it based on this placement line.
And
So
that tack down line is inside that outer placement guide, correct?
yes. And so basically you are cutting on this placement line when you save your artwork. So you're already cutting just slightly larger than what the tack down line is. So when you save from our software to your FCM or your SVG, I do not adjust the size. I don't make it slightly larger because it already basically accommodates that for me, if that makes sense, Eileen.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So I hope that answered your question, Sue. And then Donna Crow Christian says that she loves that all of those techniques great for quilt labels. And she also said that she wants to know more for quilters. And I think that would be a whole separate hour that we could do. So
absolutely.
We'll plan on that because this software is very robust for quilters. It has everything you need in there for sure. Even making your sewing field the same size as your long arm frame. So we could show you how to do that later. Yep.
That's a great example. I've never even thought about using it that way, Eileen. But yeah, that's perfect for designing so that you can see the entire area. I love that. Love it.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions that we want?
I think we kind of hit all the questions that we
okay.
needed, so.
Okay. So then I'll go back to our item that I skipped accidentally, the custom thread palette. Now, this is something that's not new. This has been in Perfect Embroidery Pro for a very long time. However, I love it. So I just wanted to share it with everybody because I think that it's something that isn't used very regularly. And so basically what you can do with your custom thread palette, I'm just going to close a couple of things out here, is you can create a thread palette that is your list of threads. So there's a couple of different things you can do. You can take every thread that you own. And if you're like me, I have more than one brand of thread and I consider myself a collector. So I have multiple brands and mostly Exquisite these days. I really love our Exquisite thread, but I do have a lot of brands that I've used over the years that I have some straggling spools that I'm still using up. So I like to have my thread palette list all the threads that I have so I can use those to create a design knowing I have that thread color basically. But I also use it for something else and that's to create a thread palette for a particular design. And so before I go to that part, I'm going to do my find option again. And I'm going to look for a design. I have one of Great Notion hummingbirds that is my favorite hummingbird design. And I actually put favorite in the notes so that I could easily get back to them. So look at that. And so when I select my hummingbird, notice how I have in my notes favorite hummingbird so I can easily get to it. And I'm going to close my find option here. And then I'm just turning on 3D to the left here just so you can visually see it better. So basically, if I go up to Tools and Create Palette, my palette creator, and I'm going to actually create a thread palette by importing colors from other thread palettes that we have. So I'm going to click my import option. And built into Perfect Embroidery Pro, we have thread palettes for nearly every common brand of thread. I own, like I said, thread from several of these palettes. So basically to create my own palette, I would go to, say, Robus and Anton. That's some threads that I've used for years. And I would basically go through and select the color. You can search, you know, basically one of my favorite colors is paprika. And so I can say, okay, after it finds that, and then go and continue to import other threads that I own. So I basically go and I do this and I can choose, you know, other colors. So maybe this Aaron green, I know I own that one as well. And so I basically go through this process until I have all of my threads. And then I would save this here and I call it my palette. That is my palette of threads that I own. That is a combination of a variety of brands. You can do that, and then whenever you bring in a design under your palette, it chooses the colors that are closest to the colors in your palette easily. It's one of my favorite features, and it's a huge time saver if you want to stitch a design that's similar to the colors in the design when you bring it in, basically. But to take that a step further, I am going to open, I'm going to say I'm not going to save this. So I'm going to open up a thread palette that I've created, and I called this one Great Notion Hummingbird. So basically this thread palette is small because these are the colors that I used in this particular hummingbird, and I loved the color combination. So I saved them so that I could go back to them. And notice I made notes out here because you can actually change the names. And I added that this is a sulky, this is an RA color, this is a Madeira color, so that I could get back to those numbers. But that's the exact color number there. So these are the colors that I used in this hummingbird that I loved, and I was able to save it right in my software. I didn't have to write a sticky note that stuck to the back of something else that I would never be able to find later. So it's a fantastic tool that I think is underused in our software. And if you want something to match that thread palette, so here I'm going to go to the bottom right of my screen, the change palette option, and then I would choose that thread palette for it to convert this bird to those colors. So look at that. How easy was that? And this design that we chose earlier, this when we were doing our search, let's say we wanted our same colors to match with our hummingbird. I can do the same thing here, and it will match similar colors to what's in my palette, what's the closest. And I can then have my hummingbird. I'm just going to copy and paste this over to that design tab. So what I'm doing here is I'm flipping between these two design tabs, and then I just paste that one. And maybe I want our hummingbird to look like it's maybe drinking from this flower. But the colors that I have used in this hummingbird are the same ones that are in this flower. So then now when I'm doing my color selection, I don't have additional colors. They're using the same colors.
And
So that's
I'll bet multi-needle machine users will love that feature, right?
Yes.
I mean, everybody loves that feature from a design standpoint for sure, but also for an efficiency standpoint. You know, I've been embroidering a really long time. You know, thread changing, you kind of get over it, right? So
that's right.
I like that you can customize those thread palettes like that. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Really great tip.
Yes, and those multi-needle users, I am very guilty about doing my search and looking for a design that has no more than 10 colors. I am guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Well, you know, Jenny Glass had a question. She wants to know, does personalized thread palette remain when updates are installed? And I know you are working on a video that is going to address that, but I'm sure you can reassure her that yes, you know, they don't go away, right?
Correct. So, and when we do a regular update, all of your information that you've saved should remain. However, if it doesn't, there is a way to go and get it or to ensure that it doesn't happen. And just as Eileen said, I'm making a tutorial video on this process from the update when we went from the Perfect Embroidery Pro icon to the Embroidery Toolshed icon. So you'll see this in a video here pretty soon. But under your general options, so I clicked my tools here at the top and then general options, there's an export environment option under the environment tab here. So if you click this, it will ask you to name it. So basically I would call this something that you would remember, my Perfect Embroidery Pro environment or whatever, and maybe put a date on it. And then just save this every so often. And you can import that environment using this button to bring all of that information back in. Normally when we do updates, that does not go away. And if it does, there's always a way to get it back. Support can help with that because even if you can't find it immediately, it lives on your computer. It just may not be a place that we can easily get to, but I know support can always help with that. And then, like I said, I'm going to make a video at Eileen's request on doing this very thing, exporting your environment from our Perfect Embroidery Pro, that was our previous version, and importing it into Embroidery Toolshed for that very reason, to remember all of your settings and your customization.
Great. So we've had a couple of people ask, is Perfect Embroidery Pro, where can they purchase it? So Perfect Embroidery Pro is available only through bricks and mortar sewing machine retailers. And they do have special discounts that they can quote you over the phone. Often, you know, the best price is at an event, but we're under different circumstances today for sure. So I would suggest that you can go to inspiredbydime.com to find a retailer close to you, and then contact them, and they could give you that information. We do not sell this product online, so yeah, sorry about that. Yep. So do you have any other things you want to share?
Well, I could go on forever, but that was all of our list for today. So that's all I have for now, unless there are any other questions or if there's anything else that you would like me to show. But other than that, that was all I had planned.
Yeah. Well, Jackie Kramer says, thank you, Ashley, for your hard work and videos. And, you know, I most certainly want to thank you, too, not only for today, but you do an awful lot of support on our Facebook group. So what is the inspiration? You want to talk about the Inspiration Facebook group and what goes on over there?
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to, I'm going to remove my one screen. Is that okay, Eileen?
Sure.
Are we done with the software?
I think
Okay,
so.
there we go. So yes, on Facebook, thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. Jackie's a huge presence on our Facebook group. I see her on there all the time. And so she's always so appreciative and nice. And I see a lot of people on there regularly asking questions, and I try to answer as much as possible. If something gets missed, make sure that you ask again or tag me again. But basically, the Facebook group is Dime Inspiration Software Users. So if you put that in the search, that Facebook group will come up. Ask to join and someone will approve. But we answer a ton of questions on there, not just me, but other Dime employees, as well as I know Eileen's on there, Deborah's on there, Deborah Jones, and you'll get your answers. But also customers use it too, and they are fantastic at it. So they answer questions all the time. But go on there. A lot of times I make a short little video, just a little bit out of laziness, because it's easier to video what I'm doing than to type it all out. So it's a great way for you to learn your software. Ask your questions. I love to help. I love to answer questions.
Great. Well, Beverly Reynolds asked, she's a very beginner. Where can she go to start learning the program? So there's tutorials right on YouTube and built into the software, correct?
Absolutely. So the in the software over to the right where your shopping cart was, if you do a right mouse click or a click on that ellipse, that the three dots, it has tutorials, and that will take you to several short videos on the very basics of Embroidery Toolshed. So adding a design to the screen, adding text, resizing things, like those things that we use all the time that are the basics. And once you've completed those, there are tons of other videos. I have some on my YouTube channel. Check the Facebook group. Eileen writes a blog that's a lot of our software. Search her blog. If you type in Perfect Embroidery Pro, you'll get tons of options, especially those that like to read and have something written more than just a video. Is another great learning opportunity for the software. And then I think the best thing is use it, play with it.
Right.
Click all the buttons, and then when something goes haywire, ask why. So that's the best way to learn. But ask your questions on our Facebook group. It's a way to get personalized help.
Yes, and it's a very active group. You won't have to wait long for a response, either from you know, a fellow embroiderer or one of our team members here at Dime. People are asking about online classes, and we are kind of working on modules like that. There are others out there in the market, but you look, you know, come here to Facebook, our software group, or Designs page for upcoming information on that. And well, Ashley, thank you so much for your time today. I know you put an awful lot of prep into this, and it showed, because it was really very well done. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Eileen. It was good to be here.
All right, thanks. Bye, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday, same time, 1 o'clock. I'm going to be doing one of our popular stitch swag projects, all in the hoop, and I think you'll enjoy that. So hope to see you here on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you.